Welcome to Simple Roof Design with Sketchup. I'm Drew Murphy, a general contractor. In this video, I'll show you how to quickly design a simple roof system using Sketchup. This is the second of 3 tutorials. The first is Primer for Roof Design in SketchUp, which prepares you for this tutorial and the next one, Complex Roof Design in SketchUp. If you're new to SketchUp, you might want to watch the first video. This is my workspace setup. I'm using the large toolset toolbar. The engineering style, the architectural design feet and inches template, and the camera is set to parallel projection, though you may prefer perspective projection. Let's design this simple hip roof. Actually, it's not as simple as it could be, though the pitch is 6 1/12 for the most part. That is, this, and this are 6 1/12. This pitch and this pitch are not 6 1/12, and this pitch and this pitch are not the same. Hence, it's an irregular pitched roof. We'll start with the floor plan. Go ahead and draw your floor plan. The dimensions are largely optional. Mine are 24 foot that way, 24 foot this way, 6 foot this way. Though don't feel hemmed in and don't feel that you have to actually duplicate what I've got here. Just any kind of an L shape will work for you just fine. Group this and open up the outliner and the entity info. I've already grouped it and I've named it floor plan. Go ahead and do the same. Then make a copy of this in place. Do that by going up to the edit menu, selecting edit, copy, then edit, paste in place. It'll create a duplicate in the very same place that the original was. Go ahead and name this roof planes. Then go to the floor plan and hide it. Right click the mouse button and select hide. So the floor plan represents the exterior of the walls. Let's double click it to get into edit mode, and let's add our offsets for eaves and overhangs. Select the offset tool, select the field, select an edge, stretch it out, type in 24, which shows up in the VCB on the lower right side of the screen, and press enter. There it is, 24. Hit the space bar to get out of the tool. Double click. No, that's not going to work. So just erase the interior lines, which will leave us with an outline of the, or rather the eave line of the roof. Let's use the push-pull tool. Just go ahead and drag this up, then select the protractor tool. Find yourself the widest span here. It's either this one here or this one. This is clearly not the widest. And starting at the lower left corner, holding the shift key down to go ahead and lock the inference on that face. Drag it over somewhere along the edge for the baseline, rotate it up, and then type 6 1/12, 6:12. Enter to get the pitch of the roof. Do the same thing again for the other side. Actually, not even necessary to do that. Select the line tool, find the midpoint with the inference, draw a vertical line, and create a face, and then delete the upper portion of this solid that we created, so that we're left with our floor plan, or rather our eave line, and a face that represents the pitch of the roof. Let's now use the Follow Me tool and extrude this around this path to create the planes of the roof. So I'm going to click on the field, double click, hold down the Shift key, select the field again to deselect the interior, the perimeter. The path that the Follow Me tool will follow has been defined. Then select the Follow Me tool, and select this face which we wish to extrude around the path. Let's clean this up. Spacebar to get out of the Follow Me tool. You can see that we have the shape of the, or rather the planes of the roof defined, but we have a lot of extraneous edges and faces that we want to go ahead and get rid of. So before we do anything, triple click, and then go ahead and right click, context click that is, and then click on Intersect Faces. And then you can select any of these at this time. Generally my favorite is Intersect Faces with Context. Then you can see that all the intersections have now been defined. There are edges at every intersection, and we can go ahead and clean things up at will using the eraser tool. Go ahead and delete edges that don't make any sense. If you delete an edge that is necessary, like this, you can see that we just lost two faces and an edge. Just use the undo. I have a hotkey sequence here. Actually, if we go up here, Edit, Undo Erase is Alt Backspace. So when I undo, that's all I'm going to do. So now check it to make sure we have faces where we should. And if a face is missing, correct it. I'll show you. I'm going to delete this face. You can correct missing faces just by using the line tool and then going back over an existing line, and Sketchup will go ahead and automatically create that face or recreate that face. Now is a good time to save your model for the next step. We've defined this simple hip roof at a 6 and 12 pitch, but I want to modify it. Entering Edit mode, select the Move tool, hover over this ridge, hold down the Shift key to lock the inference in the direction of this ridge. Select the intersection. Oops, first of all I have to click on Escape to deselect anything that was pre-selected. Hover on the ridge, you can see that it's highlighted. Hold the Shift key, select the intersection of the hips. Move it over, you can see it's only moving in the direction of the green axes. Select this point here to determine the length, click. Now we have a gable end. Let's experiment with a Dutch hip on this. Selecting the line tool, then the Move tool. Once again, click on Escape to deselect anything that was selected. Hover over ridge, Shift key to lock inference, drag intersection over, and drop it, and now we have a Dutch hip roof, which I'm going to undo. I'm going to pre-select the ridge, go to the Move tool again. I didn't have to pre-select it, but I chose to at this point. Select it. I'm going to click on the right cursor key to lock the inference. Oops, looks like it's a left cursor key. Lock the inference in the direction of the green axes. and I'm going to drop it. So I kept the elevation of that ridge the same, but I moved it over a little bit, changing the pitch of both sides. So both sides are not the same pitch, and neither of them are now at a 6 1/12 pitch. I don't know what they are, but we're just going to work with it. So Sketchup, in doing that drag, we've warped the shape that we had, and Sketchup decided that we needed a new face in here, this right here. And this is a face that we actually don't want. We want this face to extend over that way, and we want this face to extend over that way, and to create a new intersection. So to do that, this face is selected. I'm going to use the Move tool. I'm going to use a shortcut key to select it, M. Hold down the Control key. See the plus sign on the lower right side of the cursor indicating we're in copy mode now. I'm going to copy this face and drag it along so that it's moving in this direction, and drop it right there. So I've used this to extend it. Now I have two faces. I'm going to delete this edge, so this is one face. I'm going to do the same with this right over here. Move tool, Control for copy mode. I am now putting the Move tool over this edge, holding down Shift key to lock the inference, dragging it over, dropping it, eraser, getting rid of that edge. Okay, so we have a couple of extra edges that I think we can delete. You can see that there's a new intersection right along this line. I'll get rid of this old valley. I'm going to select this face and this face, then right mouse click, select interfaces with the selection, which has given us a new intersection. And so now let's go ahead and clean things up a little bit. Get rid of some extra edges. You've got to be careful because sometimes these edges will delete your face. We don't quite want to do that yet. Yeah, looks like I've deleted this face accidentally, but we can fix this. I'm going to go into Line Tool. We know this is where our intersection is. We know this is where our intersection is. Click on it. That recreated this face on this side. Select this face, and I'll just delete these two edges. This extraneous edge. Look underneath to see if there's, yep, there's an extra edge right there. And then just go ahead and select all these faces to make sure they actually exist. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Alright, so now we have the roof that we're actually going to go ahead and build. Gable end here, irregular pitch, 6 12 here, 6 and 12 here. Now's a good time to save your model. Now that we have our roof planes, we want to flatten them so that we have a roof plan. Before we do that, let's select roof planes. Let's make a copy of it. And let's save that copy for later and for safety. Let's double click, Move tool, escape anything that was pre-selected, hover over this ridge, select it, press the up cursor key to lock the inference along the blue axis, drag it on down here to the corner of the eaves line, drop it. That makes it completely flat. Do the same thing here. And SketchUp's autofold feature created a couple of extra edges that we don't want. This one here, we'll get rid of it. This one here. I'm going to hide the rest of the model to get rid of the floor plan so we can see this easier. And it looks like we have everything we need. Let's rename this roof plan. And let's make a copy of it. Once again, for future use. And hide it. So now we want to develop our actual framing members, our skeleton members, and rafter members. And typically your architect, engineer, whomever, is going to specify what the framing members are going to be, whether your hips, valleys are structural and require heavy framing members such as a glue lam, mini lam, 4x, anything. We're going to say, just for the sake of this tutorial, that all of our framing members are going to be 2x, except for this ridge, and we will make it a 4x. Oops. Sometimes it's hard to select these things. Okay, to do that, let's go ahead and draw a couple of rectangles that are representative of our framing members. So we're going to need a rectangle that's 1.5 inches wide for our 2x, and then one that's 3.5 inches wide for our 4x. So along any straight line that's convenient, go ahead and draw a rectangle, drag it so that it's well, it's longer than any of the members that we wish it to represent. So I want to go ahead and accept this length. I think this length is good enough. On the lower right in the VCB you'll see 17 feet 5 inches, comma 3 inches. I'm going to type the tab key, press the tab key, then comma, and then type in 1.5 for 1.5 inches, and then enter. And the tab comma will accept the default length that I had dragged it to, and then the 1.5 defines the width. Select, right click, and make it a group. No need to name this group at this point. Dragging it over, I'm going to make a copy of this group and turn it into our 4x. Edit it, move, lock the inference in this direction, drag it over 2 inches. I type in 2, but I can drag it easily enough. It's snapping to on inch increments, and there I have it. Tape tool to check, 3.5 inches wide, yes. Okay, now let's just distribute these. Put them where they need to be. Q for the rotate tool. I'm going to move this over so that I have an overlap on both ends. Rotate. I'm going to copy rotate this one. Drag this up a little bit so I have a decent overlap just in case. Then I'm going to do a rotate copy on this. It's already pre-selected, and I'm holding down the control, or press down the control key for copy mode, and rotating this. I'm going to select these two and then copy move over here. Press the S for the scale key, type in -1 to make it a mirror copy, and then now I need to move this over a little bit, and I don't actually know where the center of this is, so see if I can grab it by inference. Looks like that's a little hard to do, so draw a guide at the center and a guide at the center. Come on, it's not wanting to snap for me. There we go. I think we have all our members. Now we have to trim them. Well, actually, before we do that, let's group them for organizational purposes. Let's select all of the rafters. Group them. Name the group rafters. Select its members. Explode them so that it's easy to edit. Unhide the rest of the model. Then let's select each of the skeleton members. I think we've got everything. Do the same thing. Group it. Name the group skeleton. Select its members. Explode them. Now let's go ahead and make copies of each one of these. Select them both. Edit copy. Edit paste in place. And then let's hide those for future use and safety. And let's drag them all out from under the roof plan. Now we need to edit them. I'm going to hide the rest of the model. And now we need to determine our intersections. So for example, here we have a couple of hips intersecting this ridge. This is up to you. You can do it really any way you want, depending on how you want it structurally, how it will look. We're going to do it easily. We have an irregular pitch roof, so I want to make sure that I capture this hip here. So this ridge will extend long enough to capture that hip. These hips will terminate with a single cheek cut at the ridge. Over here, these intersections, generally what you want to do is think about how you're going to build the thing, how you're going to stack the roof. So I'm going to raise the ridge first, place these 4 hips in place, lock it in place. Then I'm going to place this valley, then I'm going to place this ridge. So this hip goes through. Unhide to see how it looks. I believe we've got everything. Now let's go ahead and edit the common rafters. Okay, just kind of one thing to note right now. You notice that the hips extend over here. They terminate in the corner of the eave line. They do not bear directly on the corner of the framing. That's because this is an irregular pitch roof. And likewise the valley on over here. The beauty of developing a roof this way graphically is that we don't care. We don't have to scratch our heads to determine where the intersections are supposed to be or anything of that nature. Everything is determined by the intersection of the planes. There's no question. It's just automatic. We now have a 2D rendering of our skeleton. Let's now develop it into 3 dimensions. We'll clear our workspace, select roof plan, floor plan, context click, hide. Now have rafters and skeleton open. Let's select roof planes and unhide. Now we want to determine what the width of our widest skeleton member would be. So, for example, if we're going to be framing with 2x10s for rafters, we might use that. So let's go over this gable end. Tape tool, drag a guideline down, hold it on the edge so it stays parallel, and let's just go ahead and type 9 3/8, which is a typical width of a 2x10 after it's shrunk down a little bit. Douglas fir. Verify that we got it correct. Okay, 9 3/8 inches. Taking a plumb guideline, vertical guideline off of the blue axes. And that's our plumb dimension of that, 10.5 inches. Let's select the roof planes, move tool, copy, and create a copy and drag it down that dimension. We're creating a solid object that represents the enclosed volume of the roof framing system. The upper and lower roof planes groups represent the top and bottom of the framing respectively. We copy the roof planes group and move the copy down the plumb distance of our typical rafter. We group the 2 roof planes groups and call the resulting group roof planes solid. We explode the 2 nested roof plane groups and then connect them at the corners to make a solid. Then we check it out and edit as needed, reversing faces as necessary. Okay, go in the outliner, find roof plane solid, unhide it, and so what we want to do is we want to keep only parts of these skeleton members and the rafters that are inside of the roof plane solid, and that will be the actual shape of each individual member. This is sort of a subtractive method. So I take, for example, this is a jack, just a big rectangle right now, and using a subtractive method, we just remove everything else except that which is within this solid roof planes group. I'm going to show you a method to do that that is kind of manual. There is a better way to do it. The way we're going to do it is with the tools that Sketchup provides you with the free version of Sketchup, Sketchup Make. If you decide to purchase Sketchup Pro, which is what I have, they have another set of tools along with many other features called the solid tools, and in them is a tool called the trim tool, which allows you to easily trim these things without having to go through the nosebleed that we're going to go right now. But even though it's a bit of a nosebleed, it still works pretty well. So let's select roof plane solid. If you go on down here to skeleton and briefly count the skeleton items, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then rafters 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have about 10 of these things that we're going to have to trim. Select roof plane solid, and let's make copies. Let's make 10 copies. Use the move tool to do that. Instead of copy in place, select a corner that's convenient. Control key to copy, drag it over here, drop it back in the same place it was, type asterisk for times, and then 10, enter. And then we will have 10 copies of it in the very same place that we started. We'll take a copy of each and drag it up underneath each individual member that we need to trim. And then explode them. So by exploding them, I'm making them an actual part of the parent group. And then here's the skeleton. We'll do the same here. So now we want to edit each and every one of these. Let's select this hip. I'm going to hide the rest of the model. So this here is the roof plane solid that we had exploded within this hip. So what I'm going to do is Control A to select all, context click, intersect faces with context. It could also be with selection. So now we have an intersection there, and I'm going to get rid of all extraneous faces and edges by dragging from right to left. Let's rotate and check it to make sure that all faces exist and we don't have any extraneous lines or edges like that one. And at the same time, let's go ahead and edit for reversed faces. I think these might be reversed. Easy thing to do is to find a face that obviously isn't reversed, select it, context click, and then select Orient Faces, and then it will orient all the faces on the model, no matter where they are, to be what this face is. So that's an easy way to go ahead and make sure that everything is facing in the right direction. Space, escape. Select. Hide rest of model is already on, so I don't have to do it. So Control A to select all, using hotkey sequence to do the intersect faces with context. And now I'm going to delete all extra stuff. Once again, rotate it, look at it, find a face you know is not reversed, context click, orient faces, clean it up. We have faces on everything, no extraneous edges. Move on and do the same. We fast forwarded and all of the framing members have been defined. Notice the precise detail of every intersection. You might choose to build it this way if you were framing a cathedral ceiling, but chances are you'll want to edit the members to make them flat on the top and bottom. I leave that part to you. Let's drag the outliner back over and unhide roof plan. Go up to Camera, Standard Views, Top, and we can see how we developed three-dimensional actual skeleton roof members out of a two-dimensional floor plan. Now what we want to do is we want to fill in the gaps, fill in the common rafters and things of that nature. I'm going to select skeleton. Actually, I'm just going to select roof plan, make it easier. Move tool, move it up so that it's right at the bottom of that hip and the rest of our structural members. Select this common rafter at the center, drag it over. This common rafter was created as a group originally, but I made it a component by right-clicking on it and selecting Make Component. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to edit one instance and have the rest of them edited. You'll see that shortly. So I make a copy, move it over 24 inches, and then multiply that 10 times. For the jacks, I will right-click on each one individually and make it unique, so that when I edit them, it doesn't edit everything. And it looks like I'm missing a jack, so I'll copy and move it over to make a new one. And then make it unique. And then we'll go ahead and edit these jacks. We'll use the circle tool, place it on the intersecting surface, drag it out, hide the rest of the model, Control A to select all, and then intersect faces with context using a hotkey, and then trim. Check it. And so on until we finish and edit all of the hips. We need to copy a hip over to the right side where it's missing. So we'll select this hip here. It's a component. Go ahead and make a copy of it, drag it over, select S for scale, type in -1 to get a mirror image, and then drag it in place. let's select these jacks and duplicate them, make them a mirror image, copy, drag, S for scale tool, -1 to reverse, M shortcut key for move tool, just locating there for convenience. And we would be moving along what axis here? The red axis. So I'm going to select and then move along the red axis. I can hit the right cursor key to lock on that axis, type in 24 for 24 inch spacing, and there we have it. I'm going to select this jack, drag it over here, and we want to maintain 24 inch centers here. So I'll drop it. I will copy move, type in 24, enter for 24 inches, and then multiply that by 10. So we have 10 instances of that component. Looks like this one's not quite long enough. I'm going to select that face, use the move tool, and hover over this one edge, and then hold the shift key to lock that inference, and drag it over and drop it. We'll trim these jacks a little differently. We'll go ahead and select each one individually, make a group of all of them, and then explode each individual member, and then we'll trim them using circles in the familiar fashion all at once. And then we'll go ahead and make them groups again individually and move on. And since the jacks on this side are the same as the jacks on the other side, but just a mirror image, we're going to copy them, move them over, make a mirror, and then place them. On this gable end, we'll go ahead and copy this common, duplicate it, go ahead and make unique those jacks, edit the jacks individually, and then copy those rafters and make duplicates. Use the scale tool to go ahead and reverse them, make mirror images, and then place them. I made a little mistake here, making these common rafters a little too long, so I have to trim them. Those are components, so they all trim at once, and then I have to trim these jacks individually. And there we have a framed roof for the most part. Next we need to cut seat cuts, and then after that we'll look to see if we want to modify some of these skeleton members to make it a little more realistic as far as what we'll be building. It's time for some house cleaning. Right now we have a whole mess of rafters and jacks and skeleton members that aren't named and are not grouped, so it's best to go ahead and to name each one of these elements individually, so that later when you go ahead and spread out these rafters and develop a cut list, you'll have each one identified so that you know how to cut it and where to place it later on. I've taken the liberty of already doing that. And so I have the skeleton members named, hip 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then I have the rafters likewise identified. Jacks in their own group, and commons in their own group. You may wish to simplify some of your framing members. You don't need the complexity on the bottom of this ridge, I suspect. So select our ridge, put it in edit mode, select the circle tool, lock it in the inference so that it's rotating around the blue axis, drag it out, Control A to select all, and then intersect faces with context, delete the lower portion, delete the circle. Go ahead and set a guide, a vertical guide, so that we can get the width of the ridge. In this case, I think we're going to make it a 4 by 12. So we'll measure down 11/3 inches, and then use the push-pull tool to drag it to that dimension. And there you have it. You can use the same technique to simplify all your hips, valleys, to adjust the depth perhaps of your rafters, and so on. Let's cut our seat cuts and wrap this tutorial up. Because we have an irregular pitch roof, the wall heights have to vary such that we get seat cuts with an 8-inch height above plate. In this case, that meant 1, 2, 3, 4 different heights of the plates. I've left this section undone, so we'll go ahead and go through it. So what I do is I select each member individually, select one face, intersect face with model, select the push-pull tool, and then drag it over, select the far edge, and that is done, and so on. Double click this time because it will duplicate the drag, or rather the push-pull. These are components, so all we have to do is edit one, which is what I love about components. And now we have a hip that we have to go ahead and cut. And this is a little different kind of an animal. It's hard. Well, obviously you can't use push-pull to cut it, so we'll use our old favorite. We will select floor plan, make a copy of it, select this is hip 3, drag our copy of floor plan down under hip 3, select it, and explode it. Edit hip 3, hide the rest of the model, select all, and then intersect faces with context, and then get rid of anything that's unneeded. unreverse faces. And there you have it. These little jacks there are kind of awkward, so I think you might adjust your layout to avoid that. But there you have it, a completely developed roof system with seat cuts. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and install your own freeze blocking and such. Thanks for watching Simple Roof Design with Sketchup. I think it's pretty smart to model a structure before building it, and Sketchup makes it pretty easy. Investing a little time on a model will pay you big dividends, as it's a lot easier to work out design problems on a model than it is on the job. I've worked out the techniques in this tutorial over a number of projects. As far as I know, this is the easiest way to design a roof in SketchUp, but if you've a better way of doing something, I want to hear about it. Please share. I've been a general contractor for over 30 years, specializing in custom homes. In the past 4 years, I've found myself doing more modeling in SketchUp for architects, engineers, and other builders than building. If you have a project that I can help you with, please contact me at modelitfirst@gmail.com. I'm Drew Murphy.